Touch the leg and welcome to Tibet This Week, a weekly news edition on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's have a look at today's headlines. His Holiness the Dalai Lama presides over Mani Dhungdrub. Congressional Executive Commission on China's annual report finds persistent human rights violations in Tibet. Sikyong Tsering concludes his Tibet advocacy in Western Europe. 16 Kashag convenes 6th Permanent Strategy Committee meeting. Tibetan schools achieve remarkable results in CBSE board examinations. Education Kalon congratulates Tibetan schools. Representative Genkhang-led Tibetan delegation visits Spanish Parliament to discuss Tibet. Central Tibetan Administration congratulates new co-chair for Australian Parliamentary Group for Tibet, Senator Barbara Pocock. His Holiness the Dalai Lama attended the recitation of Mani mantras or Mani Peme Hung at Tuglakhang, the main temple, on the first day of Sakadawa, the 4th month of the Tibetan calendar. The day commemorates the birth, enlightenment and passing away of Buddha Shakyamuni. Monks, nuns and lay members of the local Tibetan and Himalayan community gather in the temple to recite manis several million times. His Holiness briefly addressed the congregation where he urged everyone, monastic and lay people, to cultivate a good heart, to be kind whether you believe in religion or not, and to avoid malicious thoughts and greed. His Holiness further said, the more we reflect on the awakening mind of Bodhicitta and the more we cultivate an understanding of emptiness, the more joyful we will be. The latest annual report from the Congressional Executive Commission on China underscores the persistent severe limitations on international human rights, evidenced by the punishment of Tibetans for exercising their fundamental rights. These include expressing religious beliefs, critiquing PRC policies, and sharing information online. The 2023 annual report, which covers human rights and rule of law developments in People's Republic of China from 1st July 2022 to 30 June 2023, notes the lack of renewed negotiation between the PRC and His Holiness the Dalai Lama's representatives since 2010 and the PRC's interference and attempt to control over the selection and recognition of Tibetan Buddhist reincarnated lamas, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The 2023 annual report includes a new chapter titled Technology Enhanced Authoritarianism, acknowledging how emerging technology facilitates surveillance, censorship and repression of freedoms in China and globally. The Congressional Executive Commission laid down recommendations for members of the U.S. Congress and administration officials to encourage them to take actions on Tibet. Beginning this month, Sikyong Tsering continues Tibet advocacy in 4 countries in the Western Europe, Austria, Germany, Italy and Switzerland, meeting government officials, members of the parliament, medias and Tibetan community in the region. In Italy, Sikyong Tsering met with the President of Parliamentary Intergroup Italia-Tibet, Senator Di Priamo Andrea, Vice President and Member of Chambers of the Deputies, on Ilenia Malavasi, members of the Intergroup, President of the Italia-Tibetan Association. Following the meeting, Sikyong spoke to Radio Radical and held meetings with longtime friends of Tibet as well as members of the Tibetan community. In Vienna, Sikyong met with members of the parliament Faika al-Nagashi, spokesperson for integration, diversity and animal rights from the Green Party, who also serves on the Foreign Affairs and Human Rights Committees, and Dr. Gundun Kokler of the Australian People's Party, spokesperson for human rights and members of the Human Rights Committee and Member of Parliament, Henrik Brandstotter, the New Liberal Forum. While in Vienna, Sikyong was also scheduled for interviews with Australian print media Der Courier, Australian press agency Die Press and as well as an interview with Stefan Schiet, editor of Chief Material, a newsletter of NEOS. Sikyong later visited the weekend Tibetan school in Vienna and also met with Vienna City Council member Bakos. Sikyong Penpa concluded a series of engagements in Berlin focusing on two critical issues, addressing China's state-run colonial-style boarding schools in Tibet and the safeguarding Tibetan religious freedom, as well as unique Buddhist traditions, including the succession of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Citing the U.S. policies on these two issues, Sikyong urged leaders in Berlin to consider similar instruments and also use multilateral forums to hold the Chinese government accountable. A key highlight of Sikyong's visit was his meeting with Ang Opperman, director of the unit of the Federal Government Commissioner for Freedom of Religious and Belief at the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, Germany. In another significant engagement, Sikyong Penpa met with Honorable Roderich Kiesewetter, a member of the German Bundestag, who is also the representative of the Foreign Affairs for CDU and CSU caucus, as well as Deputy Chairman of the Parliamentary Oversight Panel. Sikyong discussed the pragmatic lessons that can be learned from Tibetans in facing China's authoritarian regime. Both reiterated their shared commitment to upholding human rights, with the Honorable MP lauding the enduring relevance of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's message on peace and non-violence, as well as the strategic non-violent struggle of Tibetan people. Sikyong Penpa's overarching message in Germany was to urge Europe, particularly Germany, to leverage its strength in dealing with China and to draw inspiration from Tibetans in confronting the authoritarian regime. He called on Germany as a leading nation to champion the values and freedoms cherished in Germany. Sikyong Penpa wrapped up his extensive tour of parts of Western Europe on 11th May, culminating in a second round of his official visit to Germany, Austria, Italy, and Switzerland. On 12th May in Zurich, Sikyong Penpa visited the Argo Weekend Tibetan School, where Sikyong urged the students to cherish their language and culture with a heightened sense of responsibility. Commending the collective efforts of teachers and parents, Sikyong stressed the significance of institutions like Aruga Weekend School in nurturing the next generation of Tibetans. Sikyong later engaged in a lively and inclusive discussion with a diverse group of students at the Zurich University, organized jointly by the Student Network, Tibet and Tibetan Youth Association in Europe. The dialogue explored youth perspectives on the policies of Central Tibetan administration towards sustainability of the Tibetan diaspora and the strategic vision outlined by the 16 Kashag for engaging with China and the international community in pursuing lasting resolution to the situation in Tibet through the middle way approach. From Zurich University, Sikyong next visited the Office of Tibetan Community Switzerland and Liechtenstein for another discussion organized by VTech Swiss. On Wednesday this week, Sikyong Penpa departed for Paris on a 4-day visit where he is scheduled to address parliamentarians, university students, and engage in high-level discussions with relevant officials. This visit follows closely on the heels of Sikyong's recent meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron at the Legion of Honor ceremony on 30th April. The 16th Kashag convened 6th Permanent Strategy Committee meeting in Switzerland on 13 May. The 3-day biannual meeting followed up with the implementation of measures chalked out at the previous 5 meetings and additionally discussed the progress of the ongoing strategic programs and deliberate on future advocacy initiatives as per the committee's objectives. Sikyong Penpa chaired the meeting, which was attended by the members of the committee. The Central Board of Secondary Education CBSE has declared the Class 12 and 10 board examination results on 13th May. A total of 962 students from 13 Tibetan senior secondary schools in India appeared in the Class 12 board examinations conducted from 5th February to 2nd April. The results showed 11 schools achieving a 100% pass rate and an overall pass percentage of 99.69%. In Class 10, a total number of 1,007 students from 23 schools in India appeared for the board examinations. The overall pass percentage of 97.12%, with 13 schools achieving a 100% pass rate and an average pass percentage of 63.30%, the results indicate a slight improvement in the academic performance of the students. Education Kalon Thalam Doma Changra in her congratulatory note extends her heartfelt congratulations to all concerned for the outstanding academic achievements in the board examinations and urges them to continue their hard work in the future. On the invitation of the President and Secretary General of the Association of Former Parliamentarians, Representative Rinzichure Genkhang, Europe-based Tibetan parliamentarian Thupten Wangchen and Executive Director of ICT Wangpo Tetong visited the Spanish Parliament on 10th May to discuss the critical situation in Tibet. During the discussions, Representative Genkhang outlined the systematic violations of human rights and the ongoing deliberate attempt of the Chinese government to sinicize Tibetan language, religion and culture. The representative also highlighted the resilience of the Tibetan people and their commitment to non-violence in the face of adversity, emphasizing the need for international support to address the issues, while parliamentarian Thupten Wangchen and Wangpo Tetong focused on freedom of religion in Tibet and the Tibet issue in Europe in general. The event was made possible by the efforts of the former Senator Robert Nahar and a good friend of Tibet. The visit was covered by El Mundo, the second largest printed daily newspaper in Spain. On Wednesday this week, Representative Kamasinghe of the Tibet Information Office, Canberra, met with Australian Greens Senator Barbara Pocock at the Parliament House. Representative delivered Senator Pocock with a congratulatory message from the Speaker Khenpo Tempel of Tibetan Parliament in Exile and Kalon Nozudoma of the Department of Information and International Relations on her assuming as the new co-chair of the Australian All-Party Parliamentary Group for Tibet. Representative Kamasinghe was accompanied by Dr. Zio Bedford, Executive Officer of Australia-Tibet Council. The Speaker and the Kalon in their message appreciated her work that resonated with the just cause of Tibet and Tibetans and said her appointment is a testament to her unwavering commitment to human rights and dedication to amplifying the voices of those who are oppressed and marginalized. That is all the news for this week's edition of Tibet This Week. Thank you for watching Tibet TV.